Hello, everyone. I am so glad that you're here. And if you are here because something in you is searching, wanting more happiness, more joy, more aliveness, I see you. I never expected I'd fall in love with solo travel. And actually, that's not even completely accurate. I fell in love with myself because of solo travel. I'm Jennifer Corbeau. I'm a retreat leader and solo travel coach. And for the last 14 years, I have been guiding women through England and Ireland and other wild, beautiful places that wake us back up to ourselves. My travels, my story of travel didn't begin with courage or wanderlust. It actually began with me standing in my bathroom, looking at my reflection in the mirror and not recognizing the woman looking back. From the outside, I had a good life, marriage and kids and stability. And inside, I felt numb, insecure, and super disconnected, like I was acting out a version of myself in someone else's life. I was in an unhappy marriage and I felt really guilty about feeling that way because that's what I had wanted. That's what I had chosen. And so I put on the everything's fine smile. But behind that smile was deep sadness and fear that this was all there was. I mean, I loved my kids and the people in my life deeply, but inside there was this quiet emptiness that I didn't know how to name. And the disconnect wasn't just emotional, it lived in my body too. I didn't feel safe in my own skin. I didn't trust it. I felt like my body was something I had to fix or hide or manage, always somehow wrong, too much or not enough, and never just mine. And so those trips that I longed to go on, they weren't because I was looking for adventure, but they were actually because I was looking for survival, trying to remember what joy even felt like. And back then, every trip, of course, needed justification. A night away to see my mom, driving to Colorado when my sister was about to give birth, or a training that I could label as for work. And I wonder if you can relate to that, needing a reason, needing permission just to take care of yourself. And then came England. It wasn't a solo trip, but it was life changing. The landscape woke me up. The joy in my soul was vibrating. And I wonder if you've ever been to a place like that where you just get there and you just know, this is where my soul longs to be. I'm in Southwest United States, so this was completely different. The morning mist hanging low over the green fields and the flowers spilling over the stone walls, the ancient trees, the incredible architecture. I mean, the smell of rain on old stone. Yes. We visited sacred and holy places like Stonehenge and those in Glastonbury, places that have held people's prayers and presence for thousands of years. And I was standing there and I felt recognition, like the land itself was whispering, remember who you are. And that whisper became this really loud calling, and I knew that that I needed to answer it, but all on my own. And so my first true solo trip, the one that was entirely mine, was actually to New York City. And I had this really profound experience. I was sitting in a cafe, dusk was falling, city lights were just starting to come on, and it had already been a full day, and I was tired. I was ready to go back to the hotel, get into bed, and maybe watch a movie. And then this quiet voice inside said, go back to the Met. And it made absolutely no sense. The museum was going to close in an hour. It was a long walk. I wasn't yet comfortable with public transportation or getting taxis, so I walked everywhere. It was getting dark. I was tired. I had actually already been to the Met that day and I'd spent hours there. But that voice, my knowing, was stronger than what made sense. And so I went. I mean, I walked fast. I booked it along the darkening edge of Central Park. My heart was pounding the entire way. And when I got there, I had about 30 or 40 minutes. I really loved moving through those halls that were almost empty. I mean, hearing the echoes of my footsteps. No one was around but the guards who were starting to close up different sections. And I felt more vividly alive than I had ever had really ever. I mean, there was no one to check in with, no one to ask and say, oh, we're ready to go, no one to please, just me following my own desire, listening to myself. And then walking back through the city afterwards, much slower this time, letting the moonlight wash over me. And I thought, this is what freedom feels like. You know, trusting myself, listening to that quiet voice and then following it, even when it didn't make sense. That trust changed everything. And so since then, I've taken everything from one night getaways to a year-long solo journey through the UK and Europe. And I realized solo travel isn't really about being alone. It's about being with myself and learning to enjoy my own company. And so in the beginning, those trips they were escapes, little breaths of air, but then over time they became evolutionary. And solo travel became my spiritual practice, a practice in self trust. And every time I planned a trip, every time I saved the money, every time I said yes to myself, even when it felt selfish or scary, I was building a new kind of trust. And can I tell you that yes is really powerful because we're taught, aren't we, that saying yes to ourselves is selfish, that putting ourselves first is wrong. But every time you say yes to yourself, you're telling yourself, I matter. My desires matter. My joy matters. My time matters. And that's not selfish. That's thriving. That's remembering you're alive. And those yeses add up. They build something solid inside you, a foundation you can stand on. Your body listens to this. Those little parts inside of yourself notice what you're doing and the decisions you're making. And it's a literal and a metaphorical walk back to myself. When my dad died in 2017, I found his journals. I sat on the floor of his office, boxes around me. I found journal after journal. So I opened one and read pieces, and then another and another. And a theme that I noticed that year after year, he'd written the same bucket list, places he wanted to go, things he wanted to do, adventures he dreamt about, and he never checked them off. And I don't think it was because he couldn't. I mean, he had the resources, he had the time, he was healthy. He just never let himself go. And I felt heartbroken for him. It's like he waited and he probably told himself, well, someday. And then someday ran out rather suddenly, actually. And so sitting there on that floor, surrounded by his unfulfilled dreams, I felt my heart expand. And I knew immediately, viscerally, that he would want me to live the way he didn't. So that knowing carried me into my year-long journey across the UK and Europe. It was another thing that didn't necessarily make sense. I mean, I left a home, a relationship, I left my cat, and people often asked me, aren't you scared? And yes, of course I was scared, but I was more scared of becoming someone who wrote the same dreams in her journal year after year and never lived them. And so once I was out there on what I called my soul quest, I learned something really important, that life doesn't hand you a map. It gives you just one step at a time, but with no guarantees, no promises you won't get lost or feel lonely or that it will all turn out the way that you hope. But then but when you keep going, you begin to trust yourself in ways you didn't know you could. And self trust becomes the real map, the thing that guides you back to yourself. So, before I go any further, let me clarify something. There are many forms of solo travel. There's work trips and conferences, even joining a retreat on your own, which, by the way, can be incredibly profound. I lead retreats, and gathering with other women is beautiful and powerful. But what I'm talking about today is different. I mean the kind where you go for you. No one else's agenda, no group itinerary, no checking in with anyone about what time you're meeting for breakfast or whether everyone wants to go to the museum or the market. Just you, your rhythm, your senses, your inner voice, the kind of time where you can wake up and ask yourself, well, what do I want to do today? And you actually have the space to listen for the answer. And I know it might sound lonely to some of you right now, or selfish or impossible, but please stay with me because this kind of time doesn't make you more alone. It actually makes you more whole. And something unexpected happens. You start to actually enjoy your own company. I mean, I love my company now. And I think that's rare. I make myself laugh. I think I'm hilarious. I've become my own best friend. And it came from spending time with myself, from getting to know who I actually am when no one else is watching, from discovering that I actually like this person. So I want to share with you what solo travel has taught me. Self-trust, it does not come from thinking about it or convincing yourself. It doesn't happen simply because of affirmations or vision boards. All those can be great tools, but it comes from doing. Every decision to travel is an act of faith in yourself, booking the ticket, choosing the destination, saying, I matter enough to do this. I mean, you are declaring I am worth my own time, my own resources, my own attention, and that is revolutionary. And again, most of us have been taught either explicitly or implicitly that we come last, that our needs are negotiable, that everyone else's comfort matters more than our own desire. And solo travel dismantles that one decision at a time. And once you're out there, you realize how capable you are. Every train you catch, even when the announcement is in a foreign language and you're not entirely sure you're even on the right platform, every map you decipher, every time you get a little lost and then find your way, every meal you eat alone at a restaurant, ordering anything you want to eat without apologizing or without hiding behind your phone. Every conversation you have with a stranger, every time you ask for help, every moment you figure something out, even when it's done so messily, it's all evidence that you can trust yourself, that you are capable, that you are enough. And then you stop needing proof or validation from others because you are actually becoming it. Something else really important has happened for me from solo travel. For most of my life, I saw my body as a problem. Too big, too tired, too hungry, too much, not enough. Always something to fix or manage or apologize for. I avoided mirrors. I criticized every photo. I felt ashamed of taking up space. My body felt like an enemy that I was stuck with. And when I started traveling alone, something began to shift. And without anyone else's vision or perspective, I began to see through my own eyes again. I could look where I wanted to look, not where someone else thought we should go, not what would make the perfect, or the best photo on someone else's Instagram. I could taste what I wanted to taste, order the thing that called to me, not what someone else would approve of. I could move as slowly or as quickly as I wanted to, stop when I was tired, keep going when I was energized, listen to what my body was actually telling me. Solo travel helped me experience beauty through all of my senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. I was being present in my own body, and it was glorious. I remember walking along the Antrim coast in Northern Ireland. It was so peaceful, no one around but the sheep, rain slightly sprinkling, the sea on one side and the green fields and rock walls on the other. And I had this thought, so simple, it almost made me laugh. My body brought me here. This beautiful body that I had spoken to so disdainfully brought me here. These legs that I'd spent so much time criticizing had carried me along this path. My heart pounding with exertion and aliveness, my eyes that could behold the beauty that surrounded me. And I suddenly felt so grateful and started thanking my body instead of criticizing it. Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for being strong enough to carry me. Thank you for letting me experience this. And that shift from judgment to gratitude changed the entire trajectory of my life. And remember how I said I didn't feel safe in my body? Well, safety began to feel different too. I began to realize that my intuition lives in my body. It's not just thoughts in my head, it's sensations, a tightening in my stomach, a sense of opening in my chest, a knowing that something doesn't feel right or something does feel right, even if I can't explain it. And if something didn't feel right, a restaurant, a street, a person, a plan, I learned to listen. And at first, of course, I questioned myself. Am I being paranoid? Am I being silly? But the more I trusted those signals, the stronger they became. And so solo travel helped me feel safe in my body, and not because the world became safer. The world is what it is, and it always will be. But I finally became a safe place for myself. I learned my body is not my enemy. It's my wisest companion, my most reliable guide, and that, my beautiful friends, that is a homecoming. So when you're traveling alone, you meet all of your emotions: joy, loneliness, wonder, restlessness, grief, gratitude. It all travels with you. And I learned the absolute truth of the cliche that wherever you go, there you are. But if you stay honest with what you're feeling long enough, and I always say that 3 nights is that sweet spot of solo travel, at least 3 nights, because something shifts after that second night. Something starts to happen. A restlessness softens. The need to fill every moment quiets down. The silence becomes a friend instead of something to fear, and you begin to hear yourself again. One of my most beautiful memories is on a beach in Southern California. It was one of those bright, clear days where everything felt more vivid and more alive. The sun was setting, painting the sky, these shades of orange and pink, and promising one of those sunsets that just catches your breath. And I started to cry, not from sadness, but because it was so beautiful, overwhelmingly beautiful. The light on the water, the sound of the waves, the feeling of sand under my feet, the vastness of it all. And it suddenly hit me. If I were with someone else right now, I'd be holding this back. I'd be wondering if they were feeling it too, or if they're bored, or if I'm being too emotional. But alone, I let myself feel everything: the bliss, the ache, the gratitude, the enormity, all of it. I let myself cry and laugh and stand there with my arms open, completely undone by beauty. That is the gift of solitude. It gives you permission to feel your own feelings and fully experience beauty without filtering them through someone else's experience first. So, I need to tell you a little bit about beauty. Beauty for me isn't just something nice to look at, it is not optional, it's not decoration. Beauty is how I find my way back to myself, it's how I remember I'm alive. I follow beauty the way others follow Google Maps. And when I see beauty, something beautiful, really beautiful, it stops me in my tracks. I mean, my heart lights up. It reminds me who I am, a radiant, divine being. And when I work with women, we don't just plan trips, we follow beauty. We let it lead us, we trust it as a guide. Beauty has an intelligence. It knows things our rational minds don't. So, whether it's walking through a museum and seeing your favorite painting, or a cathedral where the light streams through the stained glass, or maybe it's standing on this windswept hill of Ireland where the land rolls on forever and the sky is doing this thing where it's both threatening rain and promising rainbows. When I'm surrounded by beauty, when I let myself really receive it, I remember that I too am part of this beautiful world, that I belong here, that my presence matters. So, we've all heard how powerful it is to step out of your comfort zone, but I want to talk about the beauty of comfort. Solo travel itself is stepping out of your comfort zone. You are literally leaving what you know, what is familiar, and putting yourself into the unfamiliar. So you don't need to make it any harder. I learned early that comfort actually supports courage. I'm not that person that arrives somewhere without making plans first. I plan a lot of things in advance. I plan my accommodations ahead of time because I love knowing that there is a bed waiting for me at the end of the day. I often arrange a driver from the airport to take me to my hotel instead of wrestling luggage through public transportation. I splurge on a good seat. I treat myself to my favorite tea in a beautiful cafe, buying something sweet for myself like a cozy sweater just because I want it, just because it brings me joy. That's revolutionary too. Those things don't make me less adventurous. They make my nervous system feel supported so that I can be more open to adventure. Comfort and courage can coexist, and in fact, they help each other grow. You don't get a prize for making things unnecessarily hard. You get to design your journey in a way that works for you. And solo travel has changed me in ways I could never have imagined. It showed me who I really am when I'm not trying to be anything for anyone else. It helped me trust myself, trust my body, love who I am, remember that life still has mystery and magic waiting for me. And so I believe with my whole heart that every woman deserves that. Every woman deserves to know what it feels like to fully belong to herself, to wake up somewhere new and feel both the freedom and the peace of being completely her own companion, to trust her body, her intuition, her desires, to experience beauty so deeply that it brings her to tears. So I'm going to make a bold statement that I think every woman should try solo travel. So let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with traveling with others. It's beautiful and fun, but there is something that happens when you travel alone that can't happen any other way. It's a kind of listening, a kind of remembering, a kind of trust. So I want to tell you about one woman I worked with. She was on day 2 of her trip. And if you've done solo travel, you know how day 2 can be a little bit rough. That's when the excitement kind of wears off for a little bit and the loneliness or the doubt can creep in. And so she called me for our midweek check-in, which is something I always do because I know those vulnerable moments happen. And she said, I don't feel like I can go out today. I mean, I don't have a plan. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I should just stay in and watch TV in bed. And I understood. I've been there. That uncertainty, that little voice that's saying, oh, maybe this was a mistake. And I told her that that uncertainty or feeling, that little bit of anxiety, that's so normal. It is not a sign that you should stop. And this moment, this decision is pivotal. And I am going to offer that you go out anyway, even feeling like this, especially feeling like this. And she did. And she had the best day of her entire trip. I mean, she got insights about her life that she had been avoiding for years. She met incredible people. She sat by the water and let the beauty just wash over her. She had amazing food. She laughed so much. And when we talked afterward, she said, that day changed my life, and I would have missed it if you hadn't encouraged me to go out. I mean, that's the work. That's why support matters. And so, if you've been thinking, maybe I could do that, maybe I could take a trip by myself someday, but you're not quite sure where to start, I would really love to support you. I know one of the biggest things that stops women is safety, feeling uncertain, feeling uncomfortable, or just simply not sure how to prepare, which is completely understandable. And it's exactly why I created this resource. It's called Empowerment and Safety Tips for Women Embarking on Their First Solo Travel Adventure. And it includes simple yet very powerful tips like how to trust your intuition and what that actually looks like in practice. It's practical safety strategies that don't come from a place of fear. It's how to stay connected with me if you want to while still having this solo experience. There's what to pack to help you feel comfortable and prepared, and then even how to choose your first destination. So all of this so that you can focus on the beauty and the freedom and the joy of fully being fully with yourself. So you can find it through the Summit directory. It's my gift to you. And so as we come to the end of our time together, I want to leave you with this. Wherever you go, whether it's across the world or just to the coffee shop down the street, I hope you let yourself feel the small joys along the way, the ones that sneak up on you when you least expect, especially the ones that show up when you choose to take time for yourself. The sound of birds singing, the warmth and flavor of your tea, when you turn a corner and the light is hitting something just right that you catch your breath, the feeling of your own body walking you through this world. My wish for you is to feel safe in your body, at home in your own company, open to the wonder that's been waiting for you all along, to trust yourself enough to listen to that whisper, the one that says, remember who you are, to know that you are capable, that you are enough, that you deserve to take up space in this world, to experience the happiness of going alone, which is really the happiness of coming home. So thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for listening. And if you do take that trip, whether it's one night or 1 week or 1 year, I will be cheering you on. Every woman who chooses herself, who trusts herself, who lets herself experience her own life fully, she makes it easier for the next woman to do the same. So safe travels wherever you're going. And thank you so much for being on the journey with me. Bye-bye.